Captain Jake Morrison stared at the massive alien ship floating in space before him. The vessel was 3 times larger than his own ship. Earth's pride. Its surface gleamed with strange metals that seemed to shift colors in the starlight. After 2 years of traveling through space, humanity had finally met another intelligent species. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," said Communications Officer Dan Roberts from his station. His voice carried excitement mixed with nervousness. This was the moment everyone on Earth had dreamed about for centuries. Jake nodded and straightened his uniform. "Put it through, Dan, and make sure we're recording everything." The main screen flickered to life. A tall, elegant creature appeared before them. It had pale blue skin, large silver eyes, and wore flowing robes that seemed to move without wind. When it spoke, its voice was musical and pleasant. "Greetings, beings of the small vessel. I am Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian Fleet. You have entered space controlled by the Galactic Council. I'll state your purpose and origin." Jake took a deep breath. This was it. First contact with an alien civilization. "Commander Vextar. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Pride. We come from a planet called Earth in peaceful exploration. We seek to learn about other worlds and peoples." Commander Vextar tilted his head slightly. His large eyes studied Jake with what seemed like mild curiosity. "Earth. We have no record of this world in our databases. You appear to be a new species. How interesting." Within hours, Jake found himself aboard the alien ship in a large meeting room. Walls were covered with strange symbols that seemed to glow softly. Around a circular table sat representatives from different alien species. Each one looked completely different from the others. Dr. Lisa Parker, the human team's best scientist, sat beside Jake. She had studied alien languages for years, preparing for this moment. Her notebook was already filled with observations about the creatures before them. "These humans are quite small," said a voice that sounded like clicking insects. Jake turned to see a creature that looked like a giant mantis with 4 arms. Its compound eyes reflected the room's light in rainbow patterns. "I am Hive Queen Zelenara. Your species shows typical herbivore characteristics." Another alien, this one covered in thick gray fur with tiny black eyes, grunted in agreement. "No claws, no fangs, no natural armor. They must eat plants and small insects. It's very weak." Jake felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his expression calm. Dr. Parker placed a gentle hand on his arm, reminding him to stay diplomatic. Commander Vextar studied a tablet device in his hands. "According to our biological scanners, humans have forward-facing eyes. This usually indicates predator species, but your small size and lack of natural weapons suggests otherwise. Perhaps you use tools for gathering food?" "We do use tools," Dr. Parker replied carefully. "Humans have always been skilled at making things to help us survive." "Fascinating," said Hive Queen Zelenara. "Tool use is common among peaceful species. You must have developed intelligence to compensate for your physical weaknesses." Jake wanted to laugh at that comment, but he held back. If these aliens thought humans were weak, it might be better to let them think that for now. The furry alien, who introduced himself as Gruff Ironpaw from the Ursine Collective, leaned forward. "What do your people eat on this Earth?" Dr. Parker had prepared for this question. "We eat many different things. Fruits, vegetables, grains. We're very good at farming." "Excellent." Commander Vextar's eyes brightened. "The galaxy always needs skilled farmers. There are many agricultural worlds that could benefit from your expertise." An alien that looked like a walking crystal formation chimed in with a voice like wind through glass. "I am Shard Speaker Cathrell. The Council has protocols. For protecting peaceful species like yours, you would be classified as Class D herbivores under Galactic Law 847C. Jake exchanged a quick glance with Dr. Parker. "What exactly does that classification mean?" "It means your species would be protected from exploitation," Commander Vextar explained with what seemed like genuine kindness. "No one would be allowed to harm humans or force you into dangerous work. You would be given safe worlds to live on and develop your farming skills." "That sounds very generous," Jake said slowly. Something about this felt too good to be true, but he couldn't put his finger on what was wrong. Over the next several days, Jake and his team were given tours of the alien ship and introduced to representatives from dozens of different species. All of them seemed friendly and welcoming. They were fascinated by human culture, especially when Dr. Parker showed them recordings of Earth's music and art. "Your people create such beautiful things," said a snake-like alien called Ambassador Seshik, "very peaceful and harmonious. This confirms that humans are indeed a gentle species." Dr. Parker carefully edited the cultural recordings she shared. She showed them symphonies, but not war drums. She shared paintings of landscapes, but not battle scenes. She played folk songs about love and farming, but avoided anything about conflict or hunting. The aliens were especially charmed when Dr. Parker showed them videos of humans caring for animals. They watched footage of people feeding birds, petting cats, and playing with dogs. "See how they nurture other species?" observed Commander Vexstar. "True herbivores always show compassion for smaller creatures." Jake had to bite his tongue too. Keep from mentioning that humans also ate many of those same animals. Professor Carl Johnson, the team's historian, gave presentations about human civilization. He talked about farming, art, and music. He mentioned that humans lived in groups and worked together, but he carefully avoided discussing wars, competition, or hunting. "Your species has clearly evolved past violence," said Hive Queen Zelenara. "Approvingly, this is the mark of a truly advanced civilization." By the end of the week, the Galactic Council had officially voted to accept humanity as a protected species. They were assigned agricultural worlds in the Outer Rim territories, far from the busy trade routes and political centers of the galaxy. "You'll love the worlds we've chosen for you," Commander Vexstar assured Jake as they prepared to leave. "Rich soil, perfect climate, and completely safe from any dangers." As Earth's Pride prepared to depart, Lieutenant Amy Stevens was working in the ship's computer room. As part of the cultural exchange, the aliens had given humans access to basic galactic databases. Amy was supposed to download star charts and basic information about their new worlds, but Amy had always been curious. As she browsed through the database, she noticed something strange. There were records of dozens of species that were listed as recently extinct. What made it odd was that many of these extinct species had been classified as apex predators on their home worlds. Amy frowned at her screen. Why would so many predator species go extinct at the same time? And why did their extinction dates all cluster around the same time periods? She dug deeper into the files, using her security clearance to access more detailed records. What she found made her blood run cold. The extinct species hadn't died out naturally. According to hidden files, they had all been processed at something called Central Nutrition Facilities. Amy's hands shook as she read through more records. Species after species, all former apex predators, all extinct, all processed at the same facilities. The dates showed a clear pattern. Every few decades, another predator species would be discovered, welcomed into the Galactic Council, given protected status, and then quietly eliminated. She looked at the most recent entries in the database. The last species to be processed had been eliminated just 5 years ago. They had been bipedal reptiles called the Saurian Empire. According to their original files, they had been fierce hunters and warriors, according to their final files. They had been reclassified as peaceful herbivores shortly before their extinction. Amy's heart pounded as she realized what she was looking at. The Galactic Council wasn't protecting peaceful species. They were identifying dangerous predators, lying about their nature, isolating them, and then destroying them. And now they had classified humans as peaceful hervolder. Amy quickly copied all the files to a secured drive and erased any trace of her access to the restricted databases. She had to warn Captain Morrison, but she had to be careful. If the aliens suspected that humans knew the truth, they might accelerate their timeline. As Earth's Pride flew toward their assigned agricultural world, Amy sat in her quarters staring at the stolen data. She now knew why the aliens had been so quick to classify humans as weak herbivores. It wasn't because they believed it. It was because they needed to believe it. The Galactic Council had been hunting and eating apex predators for centuries. They had perfected a system of deception that allowed them to eliminate any species that might threaten their dominance. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had underestimated exactly what kind of predators humans really were. 6 months had passed since humans first arrived at their new worlds. Colony Administrator Ben Martinez stood on a hill overlooking the main settlement on Verdania Prime. The human colony had grown quickly. Neat rows of crops stretched across the valley below, and the settlement buzzed with activity. Ben should have felt proud. The humans had exceeded every farming goal the aliens had set for them. Their crops grew faster and bigger than anyone expected. The alien overseers praised human agricultural skills daily, but Ben felt uneasy. Something about this place didn't feel right. Dr. Kate Williams, the colony's chief geologist, climbed the hill to join him. She carried a tablet filled with data and looked troubled. "Ben, you need to see what I found," Kate said, showing him her tablet. "I've been surveying the northern sector like you asked. There are ruins out there, big ones." Ben looked at the images on Kate's tablet. Strange structures jutted from the ground, covered by years of plant growth. The architecture looked advanced, with smooth curves and complex designs. "How old are these?" Ben asked. "That's the strange part," Kate replied. "According to my scans, these ruins are only about 50 years old. Whatever species built them was here recently." Ben frowned. The aliens had told them that Verdania Prime had been empty for centuries. They said it was a perfect world for peaceful farming, with no dangerous creatures or previous inhabitants. "What happened to the builders?" Ben asked. Kate shook her head. "I don't know, but I found something else. There are similar ruins all over this continent. Hundreds of cities, all abandoned around the same time." That afternoon, Ben sent Kate's report to the Alien Oversight Committee. The response came back within hours from Supervisor Kethanaw, a tall insectoid creature who visited the colony weekly. "The ruins are irrelevant to current farming operations," the message read. "Previous inhabitants left long ago. Humans should focus on crop production, not archaeology." Ben showed the message to Kate, who scowled. "They're lying," she said. "These ruins aren't ancient history. Someone was living here just decades ago." Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Ryan Clark was working late in his laboratory. As the world's leading xenobiologist, he had been given samples of alien DNA from the Cultural Exchange Program.
Ow.
The aliens claimed this would help humans understand their new galactic neighbors. Ryan had been comparing the alien samples with genetic material found in meteorites and space debris. What he discovered made him question everything the aliens had told humanity. Under his microscope, Ryan examined tissue samples labeled as coming from extinct galactic species. The DNA patterns looked familiar, too familiar. Ryan cross-referenced the genetic codes with the database of alien species humanity had been introduced to. The results made his hands shake. The DNA from the extinct species matched perfectly with genetic material he had found in processed food containers from alien ships. The extinct species weren't really extinct. They were being consumed. Ryan spent the next week analyzing more samples. The pattern became clear. Species after species that were listed as extinct in the galactic databases showed up as ingredients in alien food products. The Zephyrians, who appeared so elegant and peaceful, were eating the remains of creatures they claimed had died out naturally. The Hive Queen species consumed processed genetic material from dozens of former apex predators. Ryan realized he was looking at evidence of systematic genocide disguised as natural extinction. At the same time, on Harmony Station, the neutral space station where diplomatic meetings took place, maintenance worker Pete Davis was doing his regular cleaning rounds. Pete had worked in maintenance his whole life. People ignored janitors, which meant he saw and heard things others missed. Pete was cleaning air vents near the council chambers late one night when he heard voices. The meeting was supposed to be private, but Pete could hear everything through the ventilation system. "The human harvest is proceeding on schedule," said a voice Pete recognized as Commander Vextar. But the voice sounded different, deeper, more threatening. "Good," replied another voice that clicked and buzzed like Hive Queen Zelenara. "Their population growth exceeds our projections. Should be able to process them within 2 seasons. Pete nearly dropped his cleaning supplies. Process them. What did that mean? The humans suspect nothing, continued the first voice. Believe they are protected farmers. Their conditioning remains complete. Pete carefully moved to a maintenance panel where he could see into the chamber below. What he saw made his blood freeze. The creatures in the room didn't look like the friendly aliens he knew. Commander Vextar's elegant form had been replaced by something with multiple rows of sharp teeth and claws that gleamed in the dim light. The Hive Queen's diplomatic appearance was gone, revealing a creature covered in spikes and poison glands. These weren't the same beings who had welcomed humanity with such kindness. These were their true forms, hidden behind holographic projections. During public meetings, processing facilities are ready, said Gruff Ironpaw, whose furry appearance now looked more like a massive predator with razor-sharp fangs. We can handle the entire human population when the time comes. Excellent, replied Vextar. Begin preparing the hunting fleets. Humans have grown fat and complacent on their farming worlds. They will be easy prey. Pete stayed frozen in the ventilation shaft long after the aliens left. He had discovered the truth. Humanity wasn't being protected. They were being prepared for slaughter. Back on Verdania Prime, Kate Williams was conducting another survey of the ruins despite the aliens' orders to ignore them. She had found something in the largest structure that changed everything. Inside, what appeared to be a government building, Kate discovered records carved into metal walls. The symbols were complex, but her translation software could make out some of the meaning. The records told the story of the Saurian Empire, species of intelligent reptiles who had ruled Verdania Prime for thousands of years. They had been skilled hunters and fierce warriors who had built a great civilization according to the records. The Saurians had been contacted by the Galactic Council 53 years ago. The Council had offered them protection and peaceful trade relationships. The Saurians had accepted, believing they were joining a community of civilized species. The final entries in the records painted a horrifying picture. The Saurians had been relocated to agricultural worlds, just like the humans. They had been told they were being protected. Instead, they had been systematically hunted and eliminated. Kate's hands trembled as she read the last entry. Carved desperately into the metal, they came in the night. Our children first. They told us we were herbivores, but they knew we were warriors. We're fools to trust them, warn others. The Council feeds on apex predators. They hunt the hunters. Kate immediately sent her findings to Ben Martinez, who shared them with the other colony leaders. The evidence was overwhelming. The aliens had done this before, many times. On Earth, Dr. Ryan Clark received Kate's archaeological report and Pete Davis's account of the secret alien meeting. When he combined their evidence with his own genetic analysis, the complete picture became terrifyingly clear. The Galactic Council was not a peaceful alliance. It was a sophisticated hunting organization that had perfected the art of predator elimination. They identified dangerous species, classified them as harmless herbivores, isolated them on controlled worlds, and then harvested them when their populations reached optimal levels. Ryan realized why the aliens had been so interested in human farming abilities. They weren't impressed by human agriculture. They were fattening humans up like livestock. The aliens had made one crucial error in their assessment. They had classified humans as weak herbivores based on their lack of natural weapons. But they had failed to understand what kind of predators humans really were. Humans weren't apex predators because of claws or fangs. They were apex predators because of their intelligence, their ability to work together, and their refusal to give up when threatened. The aliens had spent months studying human culture, but they had only seen the parts humans wanted them to see. They had never witnessed human warfare, never seen human determination in the face of extinction, never experienced human ingenuity when survival was at stake. Dr. Ryan Clark sent an encrypted message to Captain Jake Morrison, who was still commanding the small human fleet in space. The message contained all the evidence they had gathered and ended with a simple warning. They're not protecting us. They're preparing to eat us. We need to be ready. Jake received the message while his ship was conducting routine patrol around the human colonies. As he read through the evidence, his expression grew grim. Everything made sense now. The aliens' kindness, their eagerness to help, Her insistence on keeping humans isolated on farming worlds, Jake called his senior officers to an emergency meeting. Lieutenant Amy Stevens, who had first discovered the truth in the alien databases, presented her findings alongside the new evidence from the colonies. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. Amy checked her data. Based on the patterns from previous species, they usually wait until the population reaches a certain size. The saurians were harvested after 2 years of farming. "We've been here 6 months, Jake stood up and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien ships were preparing to hunt humanity. The emergency meeting took place in the basement of the main colony building on Verdania Prime. Ben Martinez had called together the colony's key leaders, but they had to be careful. The aliens watched everything. Colonel Steve Baker sat at the head of the table. He had been introduced to the aliens as a cultural liaison, someone who helped colonists adjust to their new life. The aliens didn't know that Steve had spent 20 years as a Marine before retiring to become a farmer. "We need to assume they're listening to everything we say," Steve said quietly. "From now on, we speak in code when aliens are around." Doctor. Kate Williams spread out maps of the colony on the table. "I've been mapping the old Saurian ruins. They built their cities with defense in mind. Underground tunnels, strong walls, multiple escape routes. All the aliens destroyed them anyway," said Ben Martinez. "Yes, but the Saurians didn't know what was coming," Steve replied. "They trusted the aliens until it was too late. We have an advantage. We know the truth." Over the next few weeks, the human colonies began making subtle changes. Steve started organizing what he called traditional Earth sports, taught colonists wrestling, boxing, and team combat games. To watching aliens, it looked like harmless recreation. "Humans enjoy physical competition," Steve explained to Supervisor Cathenel during one of his visits. "It helps them stay healthy for farming work." The insectoid supervisor watched humans practice martial arts with his compound eyes. "Very interesting. Your species channels aggression into harmless play. This confirms your peaceful nature." Steve nodded and smiled, while privately thinking about how easily he could break the alien's neck. Meanwhile, other colonists found their own ways to prepare. Engineer Maria Santos began modifying farming equipment. Plows became weapons, irrigation systems turned into defensive networks, and storage buildings were reinforced into bunkers. "We're improving efficiency," Maria told alien inspectors when they asked about the modifications. "Human engineering makes everything work better." The aliens seemed pleased with human innovation, not realizing they were watching the preparation of a fortress. On Harmony Station, diplomatic attached Grace Thompson was noticing troubling changes. She had been living on the station for months, serving as humanity's representative to the Galactic Council. But lately, things felt different. Grace first noticed the new security measures around human quarters. Alien guards now carried weapons specifically designed for human physiology. When she asked about it, Commander Vexstar gave her a friendly smile. "Just routine security upgrades," he said. "We want to make sure our human friends stay safe," but Grace wasn't fooled. She had served in military intelligence before becoming a diplomat. She recognized threat assessment when she saw it. Grace began her own investigation. She discovered surveillance equipment hidden in human living areas. Cameras watched their every move, microphones recorded their conversations, and sensors monitored their vital signs. The aliens weren't protecting humans. They were studying them like laboratory animals. Grace managed to send a coded message to Earth using diplomatic channels. The message looked like a routine status report, but it contained warnings about increased alien surveillance and preparation for something big back on Earth. Dr. Ryan Clark received Grace's message along with updates from the colonies. He had spent weeks analyzing alien genetic samples and had made a disturbing discovery. The aliens weren't just hunting other species for food. They were harvesting specific genetic traits from apex predators. DNA analysis showed that alien species had been incorporating genetic material from their victims into their own biology. Ryan realized this explained the aliens' interest in studying humans so carefully. They weren't just planning to eat humanity. They wanted to steal human genetic advantages and add them to their own species. The breakthrough came when Communications Officer Dan Roberts intercepted an encrypted alien transmission. Dan had been monitoring alien communications for months, slowly learning their encryption methods. The message he decoded made everyone's worst fears come true. Harvest Festival authorized for human settlement, Verdania Prime, the message read. Timing synchronized. With Earth's seasonal celebration, full population processing approved, secondary settlements to follow in sequence. Dawn quickly forwarded the message to Captain Jake Morrison, who was patrolling near the outer colonies with his small fleet. Outdate. Jake read the message twice, his hands clenching into fists. The aliens planned to attack during Earth's harvest season celebration. They had been watching human cultural patterns and chose a time when the colonists would be gathered together for festivities. Jake called an emergency conference with all human ship captains. The meeting took place on his flagship Earth's Pride. In a room shielded from alien scanning. They're coming, Jake told his officers. We have maybe 2 weeks before they launch their attack. Lieutenant Amy Stevens, who had first discovered the alien deception, presented her analysis of alien fleet movements. Based on their previous harvests, they'll use overwhelming force, massive ships, heavy weapons designed to eliminate resistance quickly. How many ships do we have? Asked Captain Linda Foster, commander of the transport vessel New Horizon. 7 combat-capable vessels, Jake replied. Against what Amy estimates will be over 50 alien warships? The numbers looked impossible, but Jake wasn't discouraged. The aliens think they're hunting helpless farmers. They have no idea what humans are really capable of. Jake began coordinating with the colony leaders. Messages flew back and forth using codes the aliens couldn't break. Plans took shape for a defense that would shock their would-be hunters. On Verdania Prime, Steve Baker was making final preparations. The aliens had given humans 6 months to establish their colony. In that time, humans had built much more than farms. Steve walked through the underground tunnels that connected every building in the settlement. The aliens thought these were root cellars for storing crops. Actually, they were military bunkers designed to withstand orbital bombardment. How many people can we protect down here? Asked Ben Martinez as they inspected the tunnels. All of them, Steve replied. Plus, we have enough supplies to last months. Aliens expect this to be quick and easy. They're about to learn that. Humans don't give up. Dr. Kate Williams had been studying the Saurian ruins for tactical information. The reptilian species had been skilled warriors, but they had made crucial mistakes in their final battle. The Saurians tried to fight the aliens using traditional military formations. Kate explained to the colony's defenders. Large armies meeting in open combat. The aliens overwhelmed them with superior numbers and technology. So what do we do? Differently? Asked Maria Santos. Steve smiled grimly. We don't fight like Saurians. We fight like humans. Steve had been teaching the colonists guerrilla warfare tactics disguised as team sports. Hit-and-run attacks, ambush techniques, psychological warfare. The aliens had watched it all, thinking it was harmless play. Humans evolved as persistence. Hunters, Steve explained. We didn't overpower our prey with strength. We wore them down, confused them, made them make mistakes. Then we struck when they were weakest. The preparations accelerated as the harvest festival approached. Human children were quietly moved to the deepest bunkers. Medical supplies were stockpiled. Weapons were hidden in farm equipment. Grace Thompson, still on Harmony Station, noticed alien activity increasing dramatically. Ships that had been docked for months suddenly began preparing for departure. Alien crews loaded weapons and equipment. With obvious excitement, Grace managed to overhear a conversation between Commander Vexstar and Hive Queen Zelenara. They spoke in their own language, but Grace had been studying alien linguistics for months. The human population has reached optimal size, Vexstar said. Their genetics will provide excellent enhancement to our species. Yes, replied the Hive Queen. And their meat will feed our young for many cycles. It has been too long since we had fresh apex predator flesh. Grace felt sick listening to them discuss humanity like livestock, but she forced herself to keep listening. The humans show no signs of suspicion, Vexstar continued. Their peaceful nature makes them perfect prey. They will offer no real resistance. Good, said the Hive Queen. Send the signal. Begin the harvest. Grace immediately sent an emergency message to the human colonies. The attack was starting. Captain Jake Morrison received Grace's warning. Just as his sensors detected massive alien ships approaching human space, the alien fleet was enormous, just as Amy had predicted. Over 50 warships of various sizes, all heavily armed. Jake looked at a small fleet of 7 ships and smiled. The aliens expected to find frightened farmers begging for mercy. Instead, they were about to encounter something they had never faced before. Humans, who knew they were being hunted. The aliens had spent months studying human agriculture, human art, and human peaceful customs. But they had never studied human warfare. They didn't understand what happened when humans were pushed into a corner, forced to fight for survival. Jake opened a communication channel to all human ships and colonies. All units, this is Admiral Morrison. The aliens are coming and they think we're easy prey. Let's show them what human apex predators really look like when we're angry. The first alien ship descended through Verdania Prime's atmosphere like a falling star. It was massive, 3 times larger than any human vessel, with weapons that could level entire cities. Commander Vexstar stood on the bridge, watching the human colony grow larger on his screen. Begin the harvest, he ordered his crew. Remember, these are weak herbivores. This should be simple. But as his ship approached the settlement, something unexpected happened. The farming buildings below suddenly opened up, revealing hidden weapon batteries. Missiles streaked upward from what had looked like innocent storage barns. Shields up, Vexstar shouted, but it was too late. The human weapons tore through his ship's defenses like they were made of paper. Explosions rocked the alien vessel, and emergency alarms blared throughout the bridge. Impossible, Vexstar muttered. The humans are herbivores. They don't have military technology. Down on the surface, Colonel Steve Baker watched the alien ship smoking in the sky above. He spoke into his radio with calm satisfaction. Direct hit on Target 1. All units, the hunt has begun. The human colonists had vanished from the streets, but they hadn't run away in panic like the aliens expected. Instead, they had moved into carefully prepared positions. Underground tunnels connected every building. Hidden weapons waited in camouflaged bunkers. The innocent farming colony had transformed into a fortress. Maria Santos, engineer who had been modifying farm equipment for months, activated her defensive systems. Irrigation pipes became missile launchers. Grain silos opened to reveal anti-aircraft guns. Even the tractors rolled out with armor plating and heavy weapons. The aliens had never seen anything like it. More alien ships landed around the colony, disgorging troops that looked nothing like the diplomatic creatures humans had met before. These aliens wore their true forms, massive predators with claws, fangs, and thick armor plating. They'd expected to hunt frightened farmers instead. They found humans who had been waiting for them. The first group of alien soldiers approached what looked like an empty farmhouse. The building exploded in a shower of wood and metal, and human fighters emerged from hidden positions. But these weren't panicked civilians. They moved with military precision, using tactics the aliens had never encountered. Steve Baker had spent months teaching the colonists guerrilla warfare. Those lessons paid off. Humans didn't stand and fight like the previous species the aliens had hunted. Instead, they hit fast and disappeared, struck from unexpected directions, and used the terrain to their advantage. The aliens found themselves confused and frustrated. Every time they thought they had cornered human fighters, the humans vanished. Through hidden tunnels or camouflaged exits, buildings that looked empty suddenly erupted with weapons fire. Traps activated everywhere the aliens stepped. "This is wrong," growled Gruff Ironpaw, as his troops suffered heavy casualties. "Herbivores don't fight like this. They're supposed to run or hide." But humans weren't running. They were hunting. In space above the planet, Captain Jake Morrison was facing his own battle. The alien fleet outnumbered human ships 7-1. But Jake had advantages the aliens didn't expect. Human ships looked smaller and weaker than alien vessels. But appearances could be deceiving. Jake's engineers had hidden weapon systems throughout their ships. What looked like cargo bays concealed missile launchers. Communication arrays doubled as targeting systems. Even the civilian transports carried enough firepower to damage alien warships. "All ships, execute Plan Alpha," Jake commanded. His small fleet scattered in different directions. Confusing the alien formation, the aliens tried to follow, expecting humans to flee like other species had done. Instead, Jake's ships led them into carefully planned traps. Hidden weapons platforms activated as alien ships passed. Asteroid fields that looked empty suddenly revealed human fighters waiting in ambush. Lieutenant Amy Stevens piloted her fighter craft through the alien formation, her ship too small and fast for their heavy weapons to target effectively. She had studied alien ship designs for months, learning their weaknesses. "Her engines are unshielded on the underside," she reported over the radio. "Hit them there, and they lose power." Human fighters swarmed around the massive alien ships like angry bees around bears. The aliens had built their vessels for overwhelming firepower against large targets. They had never planned to fight small, fast enemies that attacked from every direction at once. Back on Harmony Station, Grace Thompson was fighting her own battle. When the alien attack began, Commander Vexstar had ordered all humans on the station to be captured for processing, but Grace wasn't planning to go quietly. She had spent months studying the station's layout and alien security systems. When alien guards came to arrest her, they found her quarters empty. Grace had disappeared into the station's maintenance tunnels. Grace moved through the station like a ghost, sabotaging alien systems and gathering intelligence. She accessed their communication networks and began broadcasting human tactical information to the fleet. The aliens couldn't understand how their secure networks were being compromised. "The humans have vanished," reported one alien security officer. "We cannot locate the female diplomat anywhere." Grace smiled as she listened to their confused reports from her hiding place in the ventilation system. She was exactly where she needed to be. On Verdania Prime, the battle was turning into a nightmare for the alien ground forces. They had landed expecting to round up helpless farmers. Instead, they found themselves being systematically hunted by humans who seemed to appear and disappear at will. Dr. Kate Williams had spent months mapping the old Saurian ruins and connecting them to the human settlement with hidden tunnels. Now those tunnels allowed human defenders to move unseen across the entire battlefield. As contact left, called out Ben Martinez as he led a squad through underground passages. They emerged behind alien positions and struck before the enemies knew they were there. The aliens tried to adapt, but human tactics kept changing. Just when they thought they understood human patterns, the humans switched to completely different strategies. What terrified the aliens most was the human coordination. Every previous species they had hunted had broken down into individual panic when attacked. Humans seemed to get more organized under pressure, not less. "They're communicating somehow," observed Hive Queen Zelenara as she watched her forces struggle against human resistance. "But we're jamming all their frequencies." She was right that humans were communicating, but not how she expected. Steve Baker had trained his people in hand signals, code words, and tactics that didn't require radio communication. The humans fought like a single organism with many parts. The alien casualties mounted rapidly. Species that had dominated the galaxy for centuries found themselves outmaneuvered by creatures they had dismissed as weak HERBIVs. In space, Jake Morrison was pressing his attack against the alien fleet. His ships used formation flying techniques learned from studying Earth predators. Like wolves hunting elk, they isolated individual alien vessels and attacked from multiple directions. "Target their command ship," Jake ordered. "Cut off the head, and the body dies." Human fighters concentrated their fire on Commander Vexstar's flagship. The massive alien vessel tried to turn its heavy weapons on the small human craft, but they were too fast and agile. Amy Stevens led her squadron in a coordinated attack on the ship's bridge. Her missiles penetrated the alien shields just as explosions. From the surface, battle lit up the planet below. Commander Vexstar stared at his tactical displays in growing horror. His overwhelming fleet was being torn apart by a handful of human ships. His ground forces were being systematically destroyed by farmers with hidden weapons. "Retreat," he ordered desperately. All units withdraw immediately. But the humans weren't finished. As alien ships tried to flee, they found human vessels waiting in their escape routes. Jake had anticipated their retreat and positioned his forces accordingly. "Where do you think you're going?" Jake said over an open channel that all alien ships could hear. "The hunt isn't over yet." For the first time in their species' history, the aliens found themselves being the prey instead of the predators. The psychological impact was devastating. Creatures that had spent millennia at the top of the galactic food chain suddenly discovered what it felt like to be hunted. On the surface, Steve Baker coordinated the final assault on alien ground positions. Human fighters emerged from hidden bunkers and tunnels surrounding the remaining alien forces. "Surrender," Steve called out too. "The trapped aliens, you're outnumbered and outmaneuvered." Gruff Ironpaw, the massive furry alien who had dismissed humans as weak, found himself surrounded by human fighters who showed no fear of his size or claws. For the first time in his life, he felt genuine terror. "Impossible," he growled. "You're herbivores. You're supposed to be afraid of us." Steve Baker stepped forward, his calm expression more frightening than any roar of rage. "That was your first mistake. Your second mistake was thinking that intelligence and tools make a species weak. Your third mistake was attacking Earth's children." The surviving aliens began to understand what they had really encountered. Humans weren't failed predators who had lost their natural weapons. They were evolved predators who had replaced claws. And fangs with something far more dangerous: intelligence, cooperation. Commander Vextar's flagship limped through space, smoke pouring from dozens of hull breaches. Half his fleet was destroyed, and the rest were scattered across the star system in full retreat. This wasn't supposed to happen. The harvest had always been simple before. "Sir, the humans are pursuing us," reported his tactical officer, voice shaking with fear. Vextar looked at his screens in disbelief. The small human ships were hunting his retreating fleet like predators chasing wounded prey. They moved in coordinated packs, cutting off escape routes and picking off stragglers. "They're not supposed to hunt us," Vextar muttered. "We're the apex predators, who've ruled this galaxy for millennia." But the evidence was clear on his sensors. Human ships moved with deadly purpose, using tactics that turned the aliens' own size and power against them. The humans had studied their enemies and learned exactly how to defeat them. "Captain, his small fleet had accomplished the impossible, defeating a force 10 times their size through superior tactics and coordination." Admiral Morrison called Lieutenant Amy Stevens from her fighter craft. "The alien command ship is trying to escape through the asteroid field." Jake smiled grimly. "Pursue and capture. Need their leaders alive for questioning." Amy led her squadron through the asteroids using the rocky cover to close in on Vextar's ship. The massive alien vessel tried to maneuver through the tight spaces, but it was too large and clumsy. Human fighters surrounded it like wolves cornering a wounded elk. Down on Verdania Prime, the battle was over. Colonel Steve Baker walked among the captured alien soldiers, studying creatures that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. They looked much smaller now, cowering in human-built prison cells. Gruff Ironpaw, the massive furry alien who had boasted about human weakness, sat in a corner with his head in his hands. The psychological impact of defeat had broken something inside him. "I don't understand," Ironpaw said to Steve. "Your species has no claws, no fangs, no natural armor. How did you defeat us?" Steve studied the defeated alien with calm eyes. "This exactly why we won." Dr. Kate Williams joined them, carrying a tablet full of data. "Steve, you need to see this. We've been analyzing their ship computers. The scope of what they've done is massive." Kate showed him star charts marking dozens of worlds where the aliens had conducted their harvests. Each represented an extinct species, an entire civilization wiped out by the Galactic Council's hunting operations. "How many?" Steve asked quietly. "Over 60 species in the last 1,000 years," Kate replied. "All of them apex predators from their home worlds. All of them classified as herbivores before being eliminated." Steve felt a cold rage building inside him. These aliens hadn't just tried to kill humanity. It systematically destroyed every dangerous species in the galaxy to maintain their dominance on Earth. President Helen Rodriguez was meeting with her military advisors in the Situation Room. Reports from the battle were still coming in, but the outcome was clear. Humanity had not only survived the alien attack, but had decisively defeated it. Madam President, said General Patricia Hayes, Admiral Morrison is requesting permission to pursue the retreating alien forces to their home worlds. Helen looked at the tactical display showing human forces scattered across multiple star systems. A few months ago, humanity had been confined to one planet. Now they were fighting battles across the galaxy. What's our strategic situation? Helen asked. Better than we ever imagined, replied Dr. Ryan Clark, who had been promoted to head of alien affairs. The aliens built their entire civilization around being the dominant predators. When that was challenged, their whole society started falling apart. Ryan showed her intelligence reports from human agents across alien space. Their subject species are rebelling. Worlds that were forced to serve the Council are declaring independence. The alien empire is collapsing. Helen made her decision. Authorize Admiral Morrison to continue operations, but make it clear that we're not conquering. We're liberating. In space, near the former Galactic Council headquarters, Jake Morrison's expanded fleet approached the massive space station that had served as the aliens' capital. The station was 10 times larger than any human structure, but it was also completely defenseless. Admiral, we're receiving surrender transmissions from the station, reported Communications Officer Dan Roberts. Multiple species are requesting protection from human forces. Jake wasn't surprised. The alien empire had been built on fear and intimidation. When their military power was broken, their political control evaporated. Grant them safe passage, Jake ordered. But the Council leadership stands trial for genocide. Grace Thompson, who had been rescued from Harmony Station after her successful sabotage mission, now served as Jake's diplomatic advisor. She had spent months studying alien psychology and understood how their defeat would affect them. Admiral, the remaining alien leaders are requesting a meeting, Grace reported. Want to negotiate terms. The meeting took place aboard Earth's Pride in the same conference room where Jake had first met alien representatives over a year ago, but everything had changed. The aliens who had once spoken to humans with condescending kindness now approached. With obvious fear, Commander Vexstar, his elegant appearance replaced by visible wounds and exhaustion, spoke first. Admiral Morrison, we made an error in our assessment of humanity. Jake studied the defeated alien commander with calm eyes. You made several errors. Your biggest mistake was thinking that intelligence makes a species weak. Zelenara, her compound eyes dulled with defeat, clicked nervously. We have ruled this galaxy for 1,000 years. We maintained order, prevented chaos. You maintained your dominance by murdering every species that might challenge you, Grace replied coldly. That's not order, that's tyranny. Dr. Ryan Clark presented evidence of the aliens' crimes to the assembled representatives. Genetic records of extinct species, documentation of the harvest operations, proof of systematic genocide spanning centuries. 63 species, Ryan said quietly. Billions of sentient beings, all killed to preserve your position as apex predators. The alien representatives had no response. The evidence was overwhelming. Jake leaned forward, his voice carrying absolute authority. The Galactic Council is dissolved. Your hunting operations are ended permanently. Any attempt to resume predatory activities against other species will result in immediate human intervention. That depends on you, Jake replied. Species that accept human authority and contribute to galactic society will be protected. Species that continued predatory behavior will be eliminated. For the first time in their evolution, the former apex predators faced the possibility of extinction if they didn't submit to human authority. Over the following months, the transformation of galactic civilization was swift and comprehensive. Human fleets moved through former council space, liberating enslaved species and establishing new governments, based on cooperation rather than predation. The aliens who had once ruled the galaxy found themselves working as laborers on agricultural worlds, growing food for the species they had once planned to eat. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Ben Martinez, a governor of the liberated Verdania system, visited one such agricultural world where former council members worked in the fields under human supervision. Gruff Ironpaw approached him during an inspection tour, his massive frame reduced to humble submission. "Governor Martinez, may I ask you something?" Ben nodded, curious what the former predator wanted to know. "How did humans become so dangerous without natural weapons?" Ironpaw asked. "We studied your species for months. You seem so weak." Smiled, remembering his own fears when humanity first encountered the aliens. "We're dangerous because we had to become dangerous. Earth didn't give us claws or fangs, so we had to develop something better." "What's better than natural weapons?" Ironpaw asked. "The ability to turn anything into a weapon," Ben replied. "The intelligence to outthink our enemies, the cooperation to work together instead of fighting alone. And most importantly, the determination to never give up when survival is at stake." Ironpaw nodded slowly, beginning to understand the truth about human predation. On Earth, Dr. Ryan Clark was working on his final report about the alien encounter. The document would become the foundation for humanity's expansion into galactic civilization. "Humans succeeded where other predator species failed because we evolved differently," Ryan wrote. "Other apex predators developed physical advantages, size, strength, natural weapons. Humans developed mental advantages, intelligence, cooperation, adaptability. The aliens made the fatal error of confusing the absence of natural weapons with the absence of predatory ability. They failed to recognize that intelligence is the ultimate predatory adaptation." Admiral Jake Morrison, now commander of the Terran Galactic Fleet, stood in his office looking out at Earth. Human ships filled the space around the planet, preparing for missions to every corner of the galaxy. His aide, Captain Amy Stevens, brought him the latest reports.